take adequately, but supporting a government on principle. Okay? I supported this government, our party, not just me, our party supported this government on principle because we felt that the sacking of the CNC and the kind of situation that would have emerged from then could have opened the path for one-party authoritarianism. So the reason that we entered this coalition was for democratic values.
You mentioned that it could have led to authoritarianism. But
One-party authoritarianism.
One-party authoritarianism. But given that we've had a people's movement twice in at least 20 years, and huge movements were they, do you think any single party can really sustain an authoritarian rule? Would they not be scared of the people?
Sustainability is one issue. You know, I mean, okay, take that 1 year or so of royal rule. Was that sustainable?
It did not.
Obviously, it wasn't sustainable because the second Jan Andolan took place. But it took place.
But then did he really think that it would not be sustainable?
One-party authoritarian rule does not have to be sustainable necessarily to be implemented. And how sustainable it is, we would only find out when it took place.
But there has to be certain practicality
but let me, to prevent that, I took that step, okay? So let's not get into a discussion about one or the, I mean, I think there are different strains within the UML also, within the Maoists also. I don't think that necessarily one-party authoritarian rule is really their aim at the moment. I mean, they can't go back to the jungle. That's pretty obvious. So that option is very limited to them. But one-party authoritarianism in a different manner. If the party succeeds in holding the whole spectrum and strangulating the system, although apparently within a democratic framework, that is a possibility. Well, okay, I don't want to get into it at this stage, but at that stage, we joined the coalition primarily for that ideal. Okay? Mm-hmm. So, unfortunately, the behavior of the government has not been able to put forward that idea.
Would you see that you're in a dilemma right now? You supported the present government thinking that one-party authoritarianism can be avoided. Well, that's one part.
Avoided.
And that has been avoided. That's one part. And now you're not satisfied with the way the government is functioning. So are you also tempted to withdraw your support?
Is functioning, but what I'd like to see is, frankly, what I'd like to see is a forward movement. You see, what the government does at the moment is less important than what happens with the Constitution, what happens with the peace process, and what happens about the creation of national consensus government. Those are three objectives. So let's think about those three objectives being put forward.
Thinking about that, Constitution, peace process, do you think we have not had a very good culture of coalition? Because that would require some kind of coalition among all the parties that are in the Constituent Assembly. Do you think we haven't had the culture of coalition at all?
Well,
it hasn't succeeded.
We've had coalition governments for, as you know, from the second parliament onwards. We've been having nothing but coalition governments.
But most of them
None of them have worked.
None of them have
worked.
None
of them worked, true. None of them worked. It shows our, what if we have had, out of, after 3 years, 17 years of coalition rule, if we haven't learned a coalition culture, it shows a very dangerous degree of incapability to learn things on the part of major parties, doesn't it?
That's true.
I mean, you have to be pretty...
I mean, not only major parties, I would blame all of the political parties that are present.
The blame is less if you're smaller, right? Because
that's an easy way to escape, I guess.
No, I think it's not an easy way to escape. I think it's a very clear... You see, what can you do? I have 8 people, plus now, since we have a coalition, not a coalition, we're moving towards total unification with the RJP. We have 11 people. What can 11 people do in a house of 601? That is why, instead of just being ourselves, we've come forward with a combine of 12 parties. And we are trying to pressurize the three parties into coming together and to provide a genuine, creative solution to this problem.
Yeah, smaller parties are actually putting a lot of pressure on the major parties now. But do you think it's going to work? What kind of responses are you having?
Well, the kind of responses we are having so far, when we meet, they always give favorable responses. They always say we're doing our best.
I would like to interrupt you here and ask, not being a CA member, are you involved in those meetings?
No. The meetings are reported back to us by our parliamentary party, but the real action is taken forward by the parliamentary parties.
What are the reactions of these three parties, major parties, when these smaller parties, I don't know if that's the correct term to use.
Whenever the 12 party combined, the last meeting of the 25 parties, everybody spouted good intentions, but nothing happened afterwards. You see, there are, at the end of the day, the law of numbers in a parliament is something that's difficult to defy. Over 200 members between the Nepali Congress and the UML, 240 or so members on the part of the. If the three of them get together, okay, that's
they can virtually decide the fate of
more than
anyone.
a third majority. The reason they look to others is because they find it very difficult to come together.
Or is it for taking the number to 50% plus one so that they can form the government?
So far it's 50 plus, nothing else. That's sad, I think, That's sad because a continuous attempt, I think, to make this Constitutional Assembly as it is functional, you need a majority basis. I think the rule that there is a majority, if nothing else works, you have to go for a majority, is not something you can exclude. But while maintaining that rule, the attempt should be to create a national consensus primarily. Because if you want a constitution, you need more than 2/3. And nobody has 2/3 without each other.
So in a way, they are bound to stay together. Frameworks have been made so that they have to stay together, but somehow they manage to remain split.
You see, I think after 2 years, one thing has been clear. I think the limits of their, of their numbers are now becoming more apparent to everybody concerned. Since the limits of their numbers are becoming more apparent to everybody concerned, I think the likelihood of a solution is slightly better. I don't say greatly better.
Are you trying to say that we would only have a consensus when we are pushed to the wall?
No, I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is they realize, look at the Maoists, for instance, okay, at this time. They are actually cornered to some extent. Constantly, whenever they have found that the parliamentary system, parliamentary forum is not working in their favor, they've gone for Jan Andolan. Now,
I don't know if we can use the term Jan Andolan for every kind of movement that we have.
I meant Andolan. They've gone for Andolan, okay? Whenever they've gone, at this stage, after the monsoons, the likelihood of another Andolan being done is very, very poor. As a result, I think the Maoists are beginning to realize that either they have to come to terms within this agreement, or they have to pay the parliamentary game. I think these 3 months of monsoons could be a window of opportunity because the limits of every side are defined.
The plantation season is good for politics as well.
Maybe we'll see some sprouts of.
It sounds very good. And let's see, for consensus, if you could tell us, what are the points that is needed? Where do parties, each party need to improve? I'm talking about the major parties here.
Yeah, okay. No, the
One, two, three, if you could
the
spell out.
principal issue is the integration and rehabilitation of the Maoist guerrillas. That has to be settled. You cannot have a polity in which one party has a private army and the rest.
But they say they are ready for it.
Okay, then they come forward with come forward with a solution, which is just recently a paper has this morning I read that the paper has been recreated by the UML and NC for this purpose. Now I think there should be a genuine response. We have time. It wasn't that you couldn't have done an integration and rehabilitation of the Maoist commandos in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. But now, when you can take three months over it if you want. But you have to have a program. Before you come to an agreement, you have to have a program, a guaranteed implementable timetable.
One of the problems, our timing is running out, so I would want a very brief reply. Do you think we failed to identify the benchmarks that we needed during the peace process?
Oh, I
we
think
would do this
failed
much
abysmally in the whole negotiating process. If these, all those things that people claim that they would do, very little has been implemented.
We were too excited with the euphoria that we had after the success of the April uprising.
No, I think it's while it was a a good general thing, as a negotiating process, I think that negotiating process was extremely poor, extremely inefficient. I have some experience of negotiations. I've seldom seen so poorly negotiated an agreement as took place, the 12-point agreement.
On a brighter note, let's try to end it on a brighter note. How soon do you think there would be consensus? Can you point at any timetable?
No, but I would say as soon as common sense prevails, as soon as some degree of statesmanship comes into the brains of the three parties, then I think we could move forward.
I hope it happens soon enough.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rana. Thank you for
Good to see
talking
you.
to us. That was President of Rastriya Prajatantra Party, Pashupati Shumsher Rana, talking to us on his party's position and the current politics. That's all for now. Bye and keep watching Kantipur TV.